Well, welcome to our roundtable, Working Moms Work, Supporting Breastfeeding Mothers at School. I'm Katherine Bishop, President of the Oklahoma Education Association, and we are so excited to partner with the Coalition of Oklahoma Breastfeeding Advocates in providing valuable information to support our educators who are new mothers after the passing of Senate Bill 121. As you may know, August is National Breastfeeding Month. So what better time to honor the working moms in our schools? If you know someone who couldn't make it this evening, that's okay. Let them know that we're going to do this again on Thursday from 5 to 6. Now, it is my privilege, my absolute honor and privilege to introduce to you one of our guests tonight, Senator Carri Hicks. Senator Hicks represents District 40, which covers parts of Oklahoma City Public School District, as well as my district, Putnam City Schools. Senator Hicks has served in the Oklahoma legislature since her election in 2018. She worked in the nonprofit sector before switching gears and earning her master's degree in early childhood education. She began working as a teacher in 2011. She's the proud mama of 3 children. Senator Hicks authored Senate Bill 121, the topic that we are discussing tonight. Senator Hicks, thank you for being with us tonight. We are so excited that you're here.
Thank you so much. And I've changed locations, changed clothes, and my kids are in the background. So you might get a little added content for this evening's panel.
I think that is the perfect backdrop for our discussion tonight as we talk about the hard work that you have been doing over several years to craft a bill and pass, this is huge, pass legislation to make sure that our educators this is specifically for schools, to make sure that our educators, teachers, support professionals that are nursing have the opportunity to be able to continue that nursing. And so tell us more about what Senate Bill 121 is set out for and what we want it to accomplish.
Sure. So as a former educator, I actually had all 3 babies when I was in the classroom. And so, it was definitely an undertaking to be able to, have the time to pump and be able to feed my kids. But thankfully, I had a really supportive administrative team in both of the school districts that I worked in. And so, Senate Bill 121 just extends protections that other public employees receive to make sure that nursing mothers and nursing staff have the proper time and accommodations in order to feed their families. We see this as a massive win. Many of my colleagues in the Senate from the other side of the aisle, Republicans co-authored this piece of legislation, in solidarity to basically, rise together as women and explain how important it is for us to continue the work in supporting one another with prioritizing the feeding of our families. So this is the language that you're seeing that ultimately in 121, we are just asking for our administration and our school districts to make reasonable accommodations, make sure that people feel supported if this is what they would like to do while they're in the classroom, that they have a private and secure and sanitary place to do that as well.
So you talked a little bit about being an educator, being a mother, having kids while you were teaching. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was really scary the first time. It gets easier, even though they're all 3 very different people, but it does get easier. I switched school districts after we had our first, and so I think my fear with kind of engaging in this conversation was just that I didn't have a rapport, if you will, with my building administrator. She hadn't seen my value in the classroom yet. And so, I just had some real fears in engaging in the conversation just because I didn't I didn't want to feel like special accommodations were being made, even though I feel like now I absolutely would have marched into her office and asked for it. But I think it's about, growing and becoming confident as a parent, and recognizing that, even when everything goes well, it's still very, very difficult to be able to manage all things simultaneously well, whether that's the demands in your classroom, making sure that everything's taken care of at home, and definitely when you are breastfeeding, there's just additional demands on your time more than anything else.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Senator Hicks isn't going anywhere. So in our Facebook Live, if you would like to pose a question down in the chat, please do so. And we're going to take time towards the end to answer those questions, but you can put them in there now. Now I'd like to introduce a friend of ours from the Coalition of Oklahoma Breastfeeding Advocates, Heidi Russell. Heidi is the Executive Director of COBA and is excited to utilize her 25 plus years as a nonprofit healthcare fundraising professional to promote, protect, and support breastfeeding in Oklahoma. Heidi has one son who is a sophomore at the University of Oklahoma. And Heidi, I know that you are so proud of him. And thank you for being here with us tonight.
You are very welcome. It is an honor to be here. And we want to thank the OEA and Senator Hicks for partnering with us to ensure that our school employees have these accommodations. It has been just a wonderful experience working with Senator Hicks and her team there at the Oklahoma State Capitol. And I would like to say that in addition to working with you, Catherine, it was a pleasure to work with Alicia Priest before you. Whenever Senator Hicks and the team and we were working on this, and it became obvious that we really needed, an expert in the classroom. We knew who to call, and so we called the OEA, and they said yes. And Amanda Ewing got involved, and so I just want to thank you for trusting us to work with you on this project. That is my 20-year-old son, and he was a well-fed, breastfed baby and doing well. Next slide, please. So we are the Coalition of Oklahoma Breastfeeding Advocates, and we are your state's breastfeeding coalition. Although we are located here in Oklahoma City, we are a statewide organization. We are a nonprofit organization, and we have board members throughout the entire state. So I want your members to know that although we're here in Oklahoma City, we do have folks in Verdigris, Oklahoma. We have folks in Western Oklahoma, in Tulsa, in Edmond, in Norman. So we are here to support your districts as they successfully implement Senate Bill 121. Our mission, as you stated earlier, is to promote, protect, and support breastfeeding in Oklahoma. Our vision is to have a state where all children have access to human milk. And so this is a huge win for the Oklahoma educators, but it's a huge win for breastfeeding families. Oftentimes, folks are not comfortable talking about breastfeeding. And so we're so excited to be able to work with you all to really show the value and the benefits of breastfeeding, not only for baby, the wonderful health benefits, but for mom too. There's so many great benefits for mom. Our values are respect and compassion, inclusion and diversity, which is especially important because we know that there are huge disparities throughout the state of Oklahoma and throughout the United States, depending on where you live. We also are committed to evidence-based practices and family empowerment, being there to support families. COBA partners with several organizations statewide. We are a member of the United States Breastfeeding Committee, which every state in the United States has at least one breastfeeding coalition, sometimes several tribal coalitions, cultural coalitions. We work very closely with the Oklahoma State Department of Health and with the Oklahoma Breastfeeding Resource Center at the University of Oklahoma. And for some of you all who are on this call who maybe had a previous experience breastfeeding, you may have donated to our Oklahoma Mother's Milk Bank, which is, again, a 501c3 nonprofit bank, milk bank in Oklahoma, and it provides milk to babies in Oklahoma whose mothers, for some reason, are not able to provide that milk to them. Next slide, please. So the rights of nursing mothers, I think this is really, really important for us to kind of look at here in Oklahoma, what the rights are for our moms, whether they are working in the home or whether they are working outside of the home. In 2010, the big win across the United States was, of course, the break time for nursing mothers. And we talked a little bit about kind of that, the gap that occurred when that law went into effect, because as we know, there are lots of employees throughout the United States. In Oklahoma that are exempt employees, do not qualify for overtime. And so they fell in this gap. Teachers, a lot of nurses, people who work on farms, they did not qualify for these protections, which is huge to think that it was really not until 2020 when last year the Oklahoma State Legislature passed kind of the similar bill to Senate Bill 121, where it gave protections, paid breaks to state employees, and then in any state-owned building or leased building, a private sanitary space. So it took 11 years, for our educators now to come here to 2021 and having those protected breaks. But it is important to note that in 2004, it was a really big win for breastfeeding families in Oklahoma, because mothers have the right in the state of Oklahoma to breastfeed anywhere they have a legal right to be. And that also means that you can be exempt from jury duty upon request. Next slide, please. A couple of other things to note about some nursing rights and accommodations in Oklahoma. We have a wonderful Oklahoma breastfeeding hotline that is run through the Oklahoma Breastfeeding Resource Center at OU. And so any family member, it can even be a dad, it can be a grandparent, it can be your partner. It's, as we know, breastfeeding takes a family, it takes a village, it takes a community. So this is a free service that anyone can call if they need help. It can be the middle of the night, it can be a Saturday, it can be Sunday, every day. And there's also a texting option, which I know is really, really convenient, especially for, us moms on the go. And then also what's really nice about these cards is if you've been somewhere where you have experienced a really great breastfeeding policy, have been the beneficiary of a really great breastfeeding policy, you can call the State Department of Health and we'll send them a nice letter that says, thanks so much for supporting our breastfeeding families. And then kind of on the other side, if you've had experience that maybe wasn't, so great, a lot of times it's all about education. And so we can also make a convenient phone call or send a letter that says, hey, these are some things that you can do as a business to support breastfeeding families and to support breastfeeding employees there, at your office. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a wonderful photo. I think that is Amber from Yukon Public Schools, one of your members, and her daughter Lennox, who joined Governor Kevin Stitt and Senator Hicks and our COBA board chair, and then of course the OEA leadership, and I believe the American Federation of Teachers. Huge win. Just when I look at this, it makes me smile. I've sent this photo to so many breastfeeding coalition directors nationwide because they are still working on this. You know, you'd think, okay, it's 2021. You'd think there were lots of states that have these accommodations, and that's simply not true. So what we were able to accomplish this year, as you said earlier, Catherine, to get a bill passed was just huge. Next slide, please. So really quickly, to just kind of go through how Senate Bill 121 changes the game for our school employees. My boss had said this to me, and I've thought about it several times, that this bill, this legislation, it allows our teachers, our school employees, they no longer have to choose between teaching our children and feeding their children. We know how difficult it is to, leave your child after 12 weeks, or sometimes it's 4 or 5 weeks. We know that not all moms have an extended period of time. In fact, a lot of our moms go back to work right after the baby's born. So this is going to allow them to really not only take care of the loving children that they have there at school, but also their own children and feeding their children. Again, it extends the same privileges that our state employees were given last year. And importantly, it demonstrates to our teachers and to our school employees that they are really valuable, that their health is valuable, that we not only care about their health, but the health of their children. And then also, it really creates what we call a cultural normalcy for breastfeeding throughout the community, because we know that it's not always easy to say, hey, I need a break because I need to go pump, and express my milk. But where better than a classroom, where better than a school to really talk about these really important public health issues. And then just real quickly, these accommodations and this law, it really will help our teachers so that they can stay in the classroom, they can focus on what they love and what they do best. And it's a great recruitment tool. When we're looking at new teachers who are oftentimes, we know having babies and going right back to school, it's a great recruitment tool to say, hey, you can do this really important thing here at school and still, do your job really well. Next slide, please. Okay, so I thought this was a very interesting photograph, because I thought, okay, when thinking about how Senate Bill 121, how it changes the game, I really want to put on here, enough said. This is obviously the electrical closet at a school. How many times have we heard of teachers, school employees going into, closets and bathrooms and custodial closets, and we know when you have to pump, you have to pump. So sometimes you don't have the luxury, but let me tell you, this new legislation is really going to take a lot of stress away from moms that are in the classroom. Next slide, please. So when looking at a lactation space, and we're going to real quickly go through just a couple of things that are really nice to have in a lactation space, and then show you what a lactation space can look like at your school. But the myth is that a lactation space, a pump room, has to be big, it has to be elaborate, it has to be fancy. It doesn't. What it does need to be, though, is it needs to be private, it needs to be clean, and it never should be a bathroom. Again, here are some things that are relatively easy to do that we probably already have at school. It's nice to have a comfortable chair. It's really great to have a glider rocker, but if you can't, a comfortable chair is awesome. Of course, a side table so you can put your pump. It's really important to have a door that locks. We know that. Electrical outlets are a must, because you're plugging your pump in. It's great to have a sink. It's not an absolute have to, but it's really nice to have a sink so you can wash your equipment. It's great to have a mini refrigerator to store your milk. And then of course we know that, you know, going back to school in August and in May, it's hot in Oklahoma. So having a little fan is great. And then it's really nice to be able to bring photos of your babies so that when you're pumping and you know it's hard and you're like, oh, I've pumped 3 times today, you can see that photo that's on the wall. So having something that's really calming and those type of artwork and accessories is great. And this is a really good resource for those schools that might want to build out a room. The American Institute of Architects actually has like a best practice lactation room design, and you can go there and work with really work with a local architect, but really work on site with your facilities manager. Next slide, please. Okay, here's a couple of photos that you can see. This obviously looks much better and much more inviting than a tiny hot electrical closet. It's nice again to have a sign. You know, I understand that some schools and some teachers are able to create a like an in-house or an electronic schedule so that those moms who are needing to use the rooms, everyone shares. Next slide, please. Here's a good way also when we have more than one mom, you know, that needs to pump at the same time. You can easily use a room divider there. Next slide, please. And then, you know, this is maybe looks a little bit more sterile, but it's nice again to have that, you know, workspace and of course a sink. Next slide. This is something that you guys have probably seen at lots of airports and actually some car dealers here in Oklahoma have added these for not only their female workers, but when you go and buy a car, you're there for a long time. But these are lactation pods. They're somewhat stationary, but they also can be moved. This could be a really great option for a lot of districts, especially, you know, if the pod has to be moved, if there are different needs each year, depending on how many moms, you know, are pumping each year and which site. Next slide, please. So we talked a little bit about, you know, SB 121, how it's going to be a game changer in Oklahoma public schools. How can we within the education community, how can we show support for our fellow teachers, for our fellow school employees and administrators and workers and colleagues? Senator Hicks had said it earlier, encouragement, encourage. Anything that we can do to just really encourage our teacher moms that they got this, that there's light at the end of the tunnel. We know that it's not easy pumping, but we know that it's so good for our babies. Something you can also do is advocate for that pump space. You know, a lot of times because, you know, in our profession, we might be selfless, but we really need to advocate for our rights and advocate for that clean, comfortable, private and sanitary place to pump. Something we can also do is be flexible with our schedule. If you know that one of your teacher mom friends is going to need a pump a couple times a day, maybe offer to cover her classroom or go on that field trip for her, you know, whatever you can to kind of make that day a little bit, run a little bit smoother or have her transition back to the classroom be a little bit more seamless. And then again, as I talked about it earlier, what better place than a school to educate people about public health and the importance of breastfeeding and the benefits for mom and child. And then if you've been through your breastfeeding journey, if you're on the other side, just share your resources. You know, even if you had like a great pumping bra, or if you know that your teacher mom friend needs a different pump, or there's so many great products on the market. anything you can do to really show that you are, you believe in what she's doing, and you were there once, and just, you know, a little note or a text message that says, you know, keep going. And I think we have one more slide. Please connect with COBA. I know that the OEA has our contact information, but we are here for you. We are here to help you on this journey, and we are here to educate your principals and your administrators and your boards of education so that they have the tools in their toolbox to feel confident, and so that they have the right resources to support you. So please reach out to us, give us a call. Again, we are honored to partner with the Oklahoma Education Association, and we want to be here for you. And I think that's it.
Oh my goodness, Heidi, thank you so much. Such incredible, great information. And to know that our educators, and when I say educators, I'm speaking because this bill covers teachers and support professional, all school personnel, that we know that we have an advocate that is there to help our nursing mothers as they come back to work. We hope that all of our school districts will be proactive and accommodating to our nursing moms, especially with Senate Bill 121 on the books now. And we know that some may be resistant to change. I like to say that we just don't know what we don't know. And to that end, I'd like to introduce Annetta Hein. She is an advocacy specialist here at OEA. And Annetta is a former teacher in Yukon Public Schools, and she's also a proud mother. Annetta, thank you for being on with us. From an advocacy specialist viewpoint, what are some things that our educators need to know about?
Well, thank you, Catherine. I do want to first say thank you to Senator Carri Hicks for authoring this bill. I know that as an advocate in previous years, we've had lots of questions that have come from our members regarding pumping and the lack of space and the just not the guidelines. We didn't have guidelines for what school districts had to provide or not provide in many cases. And so I just want to thank you, Senator Hicks, for authoring this bill. My job as an OEA advocate, I have been into many schools, and I know that many schools don't necessarily have a permanent space for a lactation room. And so I would recommend first that before you even leave on maternity leave, let your administrator know your intentions for breastfeeding and the need for a lactation room, so that while you're gone, if they don't have a designated room that's clean and sterile and secure already, that they have time to prepare a room for you. Also, I would remind your principal, if you get any pushback from your principal about this, you know, we don't have room or we can't make this accommodation for you. If they give you some pushback, then I would reach out to your school district human resource director or human capital director or whoever's in charge of just personnel, because they should be aware of this bill, and they should provide you what you need to be comfortable. And then if you get any pushback from them, then of course you can reach out to one of your OEA advocates, and we would be more than happy to meet with them and share with them the language from this bill and the accommodations that they have to make for our breastfeeding mothers.
Well, thank you, Annetta. That is so helpful. If you have a question, please put it in the chat on the Facebook Live. And while we're waiting on those, I want to briefly mention our Working Moms Work Toolkit. You can find ideas for creating a welcoming nursing area at your school. And in the toolkit, you'll find a copy of Senate Bill 121 and all kinds of great resources at okea.org working moms, and you see it right there on the screen. And I'm also excited to announce that through the partnership with the Coalition of Oklahoma Breastfeeding Advocates and the American Federation of Teachers of Oklahoma and the Oklahoma Education Association, we will be mailing copies of this toolkit to every public school district in Oklahoma. And that is so exciting to be able to do that. So, Senator Hicks, let me pose a question to you. You talked about your experiences as being an educator, as a working mom, as a nursing mom, and how that changed over the years. If you had to give that pep talk, when I think about this, we literally, our mamas have basically 6 weeks off, and then they're back in school teaching. That's about the typical time they have off, is 6 weeks, and then they're back. I was not even able to stay awake after 6 weeks. So what words of encouragement or advice would you give? Because I have a handful of friends that have just had babies and they're going back to school. What would you tell them that they need to be, that it would warm your heart that you knew that this bill was being accomplished?
I have to laugh, first of all, because after our third, I was back in the classroom after 4 weeks before I was even medically released to be there. And I'm wearing my, I don't know if you can see this, but this is my walkout shirt from my DC ACT. I was nursing while I was at the walkout. I nursed all over the Capitol building. So, I mean, all that to say that, I mean, I think, you know, you can be your own worst enemy sometimes. You know, we can get in our heads and we can really overthink things. Kids really need very, very few things to feel safe and secure. A calm mom is number one. The more calm you can be, you know, the better your milk supply will last. And obviously all the positive benefits that come with just remaining calm and being able to manage your stress effectively. You know, and I think that just comes with confidence. And unfortunately, when you're transitioning into that role, just like anything new, we can tend to overthink things. So just know that rest is way more important than research. Because all the research will tell you to get rest, drink lots of water, and be calm. So I'll just do it for you. Sleep when the baby sleeps, and drink lots of water.
I love that, because yes, drink lots of water is what you need. Being at the elementary setting, we would, any nursing moms that we had in our building, we would make sure that our schedule fit their schedule. So if we needed to switch up when a grade level went to what we call specials, art, music, and PE, we would make sure that they had that time. And they were typically having to use their plan time as their time to go pump, but we tried to cover their class. We tried to make it accessible because we knew this was very important to them and very important to their babies. Annetta, you talked about that you are across the metro area, especially with other school districts. Do we have any school districts that, especially after Senate Bill 121, that, or before, that have passed policies or have it in their negotiated agreement to help our nursing mothers?
So I would say that this summer, in many of the larger locals that do bargain and have a negotiated agreement, this bill was brought up as a talking point. And the district said that they would be working on creating board policy, which is definitely where it needs to be, though it gets kind of buried in a whole bunch of other board policies. But we did have one district that went a step farther and actually put language in their collective bargaining agreement that basically says that the district will provide a clean, sterile, secure lactation room for nursing mothers. And so that's a huge win. And I think that following this year, we're kind of see where things go and see how many, hopefully no issues, but if we have any issues, if we need to readdress it this summer, the advocates will definitely make sure that we get language, and we'll be following up to make sure that board policy is created for this Senate bill.
Great, because our negotiated agreement will cover whatever that unit is, whether it's teachers or ESP, but we need to make sure that all of our school employees are covered by this as well. So thanks for that. Heidi, you talked a little bit about, I know we're going to have the toolkit on our website. If there was like one of your favorite items in the toolkit, what would that be?
Okay, so before I answer that question, Catherine, I want to give a quick plug, because in the state of Oklahoma, there is a program that is administered through the State Department of Health and COBA, and it's called the Breastfeeding Friendly Worksite Recognition. And it is a program where organizations, companies, they can do certain things, and that encourage a breastfeeding friendly work site and environment. There are 3 public school districts in Oklahoma that have that recognition. It's Guthrie Public Schools, Pleasant Grove Public Schools, and then the Sodexo Nutrition Services at Tulsa Public Schools. So I just want to real quickly give a shout out to those 3 districts, because they have already committed to having breastfeeding friendly policies. So good job. Okay, so going back to your question, if I could have one thing, something that really comes to mind is, and it's going to be in their toolkit for districts, and then they can also get them through us and download them through the website. It's that breastfeeding friendly, or the nursing rights wallet, the card that moms can put in the wallet, in the card, in the card in their wallet. It is really helpful because it clearly spells out for Oklahoma moms what their rights are, and whether they are, at the theater or at a movie or in the classroom, they can easily just pull that out and go, okay, these are my rights. And again, it's about education. So having that for yourself, for your spouse, for your family, it's just really, really handy.
That is great. I can't wait to get my hands on the toolkit to see what's all in there. I know there's like a door hanger where they can put it on their door, that they're, like private, don't bother me, don't come in, door hanger. So we are beyond grateful for our guests being with us tonight, those that have joined in on our Facebook Live. And Vice President Carri Elledge and I would like to thank everyone so much for attending. Senator Carri Hicks, Heidi Russell of COBA, OEA Advocacy Specialist Annetta Hein. Please continue to honor our working moms and challenge folks to support their colleagues. Senate Bill 121 shows what we can accomplish when we stick together as educators and advocate for our students and each other and ourselves. And this is about our nursing moms taking care of their babies so they can take care of our students. And so it is so important that we come together like we always do as an education community and make sure that we're taking care of each other. So thank you to our guests that have been on with us. Thank you those that have joined us on Facebook Live. We will be doing this again on Thursday at 5 o'clock. So if you have friends that couldn't make it tonight, please join us then. Have a wonderful evening. Be well and stay safe. Thank you.